Hello one and all, this is SoHellKite, and welcome to a Monster Hunter World video. We'll be doing a recap, but I won't be doing it by my little lonesome. I'll be doing it with a fellow Monster Hunter. His name is Virtue. He is mainly on the Twitch side of things, but he's a lot more knowledgeable than I am, so I'm glad that he's here today. Why don't you tell us about yourself, Virtue?
Hi, I'm Brother Virtue. Been playing Monster Hunter since 2004. I stream on Twitch. It's fun. I enjoy Monster Hunter.
So, but what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to kind of do like a recap of like Monster Hunter World about. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about mainly the zones and the monsters are actually in the zones. So, we'll start off straight away with the first zone we all know, but it's got shown off like tons and tons, which is also known as the Ancient Forest. It is. Well, it's a luscious. When I played it at like EGX, it's like, you know, it's this luscious, very vibrant sort of area with trees, and when you first go into the area, it's overgrown, and the further you go in, it gets even more overgrown with roots going all over the place, and of course you climb the massive tree. It's an amazing area actually, and they actually did a video on a Capcom YouTube where they actually got the idea for the Ancient Forest. Went to Australia. It was really bizarre. I was watching it and I was like, oh, this is really cool. So, but the Ancient Forest, cool little area. What do you think about the Ancient Forest?
I think it's beautiful. There's a lot going on with it. It's really dense. It seems like there's wildlife everywhere.
The main three monsters shown off in the Ancient Forest, of course, we have ourselves the King of the Skies. We have ourselves the Rathalos hanging up there at the highest of the peak. And he overlooks the Ancient Forest because, well, it's his territory. It's his. Yeah, that's pretty much what the Rathalos is. And when actually fighting the Rathalos, I did mention
everything is owned by Rathalos here. Exactly.
But what mean for the virtue of thinking? Like I said, you can't have Rathalos without Raytheon. Raytheon's going to be in the Ancient Forest, most likely. It's what
hopefully.
Well, yeah, but the fact is, when you see in all the demos and all the gameplay you see of it, he's always guarding a nest. And of course, well, Rathalos, he can't lay eggs. So of course he's going to have his queen, which will be, of course, the Raytheon. So there might be the classic troublesome pair quest. Maybe they're sticking around there.
That would be nice. Or
maybe early on, like I said, you know, she is an early wyvern. You do tend to fight maybe at HR3 or HR4, I believe, with Raytheon anyway as well.
So you're talking about the Los. We got Anjanath. We got the Great Jagras. Variety of wildlife sprawling about.
And you got yourselves the two new ones actually that got shown off in the Wildspire Wasteland. Of course, now the gameplays have been popping up all over the place. Pookie. That's something you say. Pookie. Like, you know, again, me and Virtue were talking beforehand actually. He's probably going to most likely be sort of like a Yin Cook sort of like early stage, because maybe Yin Cook is not in this one. It'd be a shame, but it makes sense if he isn't, because, you know, new world, new landscape, new monsters makes sense. So he's going to be like kind of like the Kutku entry level of monsters. And I'm not even going to try and attempt saying his name. It's the new drone with the rock. How do you say his name? Kuluyaku, yeah. He's really cool. I love him. The fact is, he's not just a typical looking drone. I mean, I really do like the drones. I'm just saying, but the fact that this is like a bird with his feathers sticking around, and he carries rocks.
It's definitely interesting seeing a monster with the ability to use items in the environment against you. It's like you don't really know what you're gonna get. Maybe you get an egg or a pot or a rock.
It's kind of funny, really, because like you see a clip where he just throws a rock at you, or another clip where he just literally defends himself like a shield when like the greatsword user smacks down. He could ping, just literally just pings off him. What's it to be like with the Rathalos fighting Puke, or what about Puke fighting maybe a smaller monster? What the animations are. You know, that's what I'm looking forward to. He's probably going to use his massive tongue to wrap round or something, like beat him against the wall or something. Just literally just pick him up. I was thinking maybe the Jagras would just literally eat one, just outright, just eat a drone.
Yeah, it definitely looks like there's like a food chain mechanic going on where everybody kind of fits into a slot, and it's kind of interesting to see where maybe you fit in this slot, at least early on.
Also, with the Jagras, we have ourselves the smaller ones as well. What are they called again?
Just the Jagras?
Yeah, oh, they just, no, yeah, so, yeah. See, that's how stupid I am. Yeah, they called the Jagras, not the Great Jagras. Anyway, they have like, when I was actually playing the demo, they have this sort of like this sort of pack mentality. I love it. Like they always walk around in packs, and if you go into their territory, they will attack you. And they have this really cool special AI sort of things. Like if you kill a couple of them, it's like, okay, this guy's business. We can't beat him.
They kind of just disperse and go get aid,
and then they run off and like climb a tree and start barking at you, basically. I have heard people say like they will actually attack other big monsters in the area. If actually go into the if a monster does go into their area, they will attack it. And,
yeah, there is some footage out there.
I love that. I think it's really cool because it shows it's not just like typical Monster Hunter back in the day where a monster will just walk into an area and they all just ignore each other. Now there's a food chain thing, as you mentioned earlier, and there's like territories and stuff, and it's such a cool thing. Speaking of territories as well, this thing blew my mind. It showed it in the Ancient Forest, like when I mentioned about where they got the idea of getting the Ancient Forest ideas from Australia. I mean, like with the whole territory thing. When I first saw the territory thing where you can actually pull off marks of scratch marks and bits and bobs like that, I thought, okay, these marks.
Tracking.
The tracking thing where you can see the marks and all that, the mucus on the walls. I thought they were already there, like they're already loaded in, already there. And I was like, cool, but no, the monsters actually do it. You can watch them place their territory. And all these markings all over the walls. I think that's amazing. I love that.
Interacting real time and marking their territory and keeping other monsters out from it.
It's amazing. Like I think one of my favorite one, of course, because Rathalos, he's my favorite monster. Here's how he does his animation when he claws a wall. He kind of flies up to a tree, wraps around it, and just claws it to pieces and flies off. It's really cool. The
I just figured he'd lift up his tail or something and, do his business.
He just claws it. Anjanath's just gross. He just literally just sneezes at a wall. It's like, that's disgusting. With the Ancient Forest as well, like, it's pretty cool when I was actually, again, playing the thing, and I know I was watching other people play it as well. The fact is when you first start off, it's very open, very wide, and you got all, like, all the herbivores kind of like, eating grass and all that sort of thing. But then, the deeper you go into it, it gets a lot more dense and a lot more heavy. That, it's overgrown. And
there's definitely a verticality to the game now that hasn't existed previously. I mean, maybe there was like tall ledges and cliff sides that you could jump off of, but ultimately, like, it was kind of like a one and done sort of deal just to get to your target. But yeah, it definitely seems a lot more interactive now where, you got winding, spiraling roots and plants that you're interacting with along the way.
It's really cool. I really like the fact is like Capcom put a lot of work into this, and I've also like there's actually hunting grounds where the monsters actually hang around and you can actually mess around with their hunting area. Like for instance in the video it shows of the Comic-Con thing, I think I'll mention this video, it's the Jaguaress is in one area, but the hunter wants to use the tree vines to trap him and have quick, easy hits on the Jaguaress.
Right.
So he spooks the herbivore. He spooks them by shooting around them. It basically leads them towards the Jaguaress's hunting area, where they're not actually supposed to be because they know the Jaguaress hunts around there, so they're not actually going to walk over there. So he lures them all the way to this trap, and the Jaguaress actually follows the prey, and then he traps him. It's such a cool way of hunting now.
Yeah, I think there's also some footage with the Rathian where he's using the slinger as a distractionary tool and kind of moving it to where he wants it to go before he sets himself up for like a mount or to attack and interact with it and hunt it.
Yeah, it showed it in the Wildspire's Waste video, and that's actually a good thing to actually transition to. We're now going to talk about the Wildspire's Waste. I'm guessing this is going to be sort of like the desert sort of area, isn't it? I believe. Actually,
yeah, it's essentially the new desert.
It's a new desert area, and it's massive.
It looks like it's got a runoff from the ancient forest, so it's almost like the maps are kind of complementing one another. So you have like your ancient forest,
I did hear about
trees, that. and then it's kind of like a little bit of a tree area, and then maybe some desert. So maybe this desert transitions to another map.
I mean, I did hear about that. Like all the maps do connect somehow, but
yeah, you can definitely see the functionality for like the story value of the game, where maybe they start you off in this area and then you master it and defeat whatever is holding you back, and it's kind of like a door opening to the next area, and then you fight the big bad monster in this zone, and then you know what I mean. Like it definitely looks like it's got a good progression to it.
Exactly, yeah. But of course, in the desert area, it shows off these little really cute ants at the beginning. So I think it was a really cool touch that there's ants just walking around.
There's an abundance of wildlife in the game from what we've seen so far and talked about amongst each other, as far as like insects and birds and variety of little mammals and creatures. And it seems like they kind of change from one map to the other. So you might have like, I don't know, like a frog in one zone that's a certain color, and maybe it's a paralysis frog, and then it looks like maybe in this other zone, maybe it's a sleep frog. Things like that.
Also, what you mentioned actually earlier before we started recording this, there's these wyvern sort of creatures that can fly around the area that you can kind of like use your slinger to ride around, but each of them all look different in zones. Like the ancient forest are kind of like, I believe they're blue. It's
like a blue-yellow color. Like it's almost kind of like the Rambora, but they're wing drakes.
Exactly, yeah. And then in the Wildspire Waste, they're more brown and a bit more dusty and that sort of thing. And you know, again, that sort of camouflage, you know, to like, you know, mix into there so they don't get, you know, get eaten.
Blend into its environment.
So they don't get eaten, yeah. But yeah, in the Wildspire Waste, you have 3 of the main guys in the Wildspire Waste. You have yourself the Baroth, then you have like, how do you say, what's that mudfish called? I can't say his name.
The Jiraiya Todos?
Yeah, okay.
Lavacia Volganos, it's the same damn thing.
Yeah, and that is, it showed off the scene like that. That is the alpha to the Baroth, which was actually quite surprising when I first saw that. I thought the Baroth would be like, kind of like the big boy of them two.
You know, there was some footage with Socks, a Baroth, I think, on equal par, and at one point, the Baroth just went up and smacked his head down on top of the fish, and then later on, the Jiraiya wrapped itself around the Baroth and kind of like did a
chewed his neck.
Pretty much.
Of course, you have the big boy of the desert, and that is Diablos.
He kind of seems like a cranky old man just hiding in a cave until you piss him off with too much noise.
Yeah, what was kind of funny, but when I was at the EGX, Socks was playing and he was using his, he was using the charge blade and he was fighting the Baroth. And again, with them drakes, you can actually do a couple of things with them. You can use your, your lasso, so your slinger, to actually, fly along with them. Or if you shoot them, they start screeching, and that really pissed off the Diablos. You shot him, and then the thing started screaming, and then basically, he and the Baroth fell into the Diablo's caverns underneath.
Yeah, it seems like the desert has got just like the ancient forest, a lot of verticality to it. So you got like your cave systems and little nooks and crannies in the rocks and canyons and things of that sort.
One of my favorite bits, though, right, when with the Diablos, they've made I think it made him a bit more terrifying now, because as he was actually trying to run away from the Diablos, right, and as he got out of the cave, the music stopped, but then to the right of him, the Diablos was following him, but it wasn't like the typical sort of like dust effect they used to have beforehand with the Diablos. A mole trail was following him.
You mean just like a big billowing cloud with the Diablos in it, just walking at you?
No. Like he was the Diablos was underground. Like he was digging.
Oh.
He was digging, and like a mole tunnel. You see like a mound of dirt. Like a massive
they've
tunnel.
done that. They've done that in previous games, but
yeah,
but
within
this game, it definitely looks a lot more terrifying.
It's a heck more noticeable. Yeah, after that, I think he cleared off and ran the other way. Baroth has kind of his own nest area, and it's just disgusting. It's just a big pile of mud all over the place. Plus, the Baroth, I like his new effect now. Instead of being when you get caught in a snowman, you actually now are caught in sort of like a mud bubble or mud puddle, so you actually slip around the place and actually get stuck and so forth. Have you seen the gameplay for the Baroth?
Yeah, it looks like you're kind of just sort of swimming around in a big turd.
Exactly, yeah. It's good old big turd there of the Baroth. Of course, in the Wildspire Waste trailer, it showed the Raytheon, and now it showed off the new one, the flagship monster, Nagagante.
Yeah, Nergigante or Nergiante.
Honestly, he looks terrifying. He just looks so intimidating. It is quite scary. A monster. He is quite scary, yeah. Just seeing him the first time, but then watching the gameplay for him, it's just terrifying how just big he is and how spiky he is.
Tell me what is it about him that terrifies you? I mean, tell me about Nergiante to you.
His horns. Like, imagine that thing. Straight away, the horns are a big no. Like he is a big boy. He is like, his horns are massive. And like I said, yeah, I want to I want to break them, but you said they actually do regenerate the horns. So
yeah, like while you're attacking it, it's like a row of horns, kind of like just like a body of thorns or bones protruding from his body, and they start out kind of white, and it's a really hyper aggressive monster, and so it kind of makes you a hyper aggressive player, because if you don't break those in enough time, they'll start to grow black, and then eventually you'll start bouncing on it. It's kind of like an added layer of armor or defense, and it just makes it that much harder to fight.
Good lord!
Yeah,
hell.
It looks terrifying. Kind of reminds me of like those blizzard creatures, like an actual Diablo, like the devil, because it stands upright and has those big strong arms, and it looks like it could just grab you and kind of rip you apart if it wanted to.
I really can't wait to see what the armor looks like for it, and like the hammer. All the weaponry going to look really cool. Like it's just going to be his horns. For what's basically going to be like the great sword or the hammer. Which is going to be
holding a stick with like just a bunch of spikes on it.
No, he's a really cool flagship. Actually, when I first saw him, I was like, they've done a good job on him. He's intimidating, and that's what you want. Like that sense of, oh damn, when you see him. That sort of thing there as well. But the Raytheon, they didn't seem very new. Like, she has the same sort of typical moveset. But again, I'll be wrong, like, they didn't show much of it off. So I'm not going to,
Well, I mean, you fought the Los at EGX, right?
I did. The Los is completely different. Rathalos.
And would you say, like, there's enough of the same to where it feels like, for those worried about it, it still feels like Monster Hunter. It still feels like a Rathalos. It still feels like something that and you fought in. But there's also so much more added onto it to where, like, you kind of have to change the way you think about it.
Rathalos had this new move, man, where he knocked me down, like, a lot. He beat me into the ground, he did. I wasn't expecting how strong he was. He has a move where you kind of stumble. When he hits you to the ground, you start stumbling up, and he's flying in the air. He swoops down, he picks you up he picks you up in his talon, and then he throws you. It's like,
doesn't he do like a loop-de-loop?
No, as far as maybe through the loop, I don't know. I was just in shock. I was like, "What's going on?" He didn't do that. He never did this before. Like I said, he just any returning monster, don't think they're the same. That's basically my tip for that as well. Because Rathalos, I was like, yeah, Rathalos.
We've spent all these years fighting different versions of the same thing, and it's kind of sort of felt the same for the most part, but little differences here and there, or colors, or it's in the air for too damn long. But this one definitely seems like it's something completely different.
The slinger is very useful with the Rathalos, so it's a good job with having the slinger in there as well. And
what if it takes off with you? Like, do you just go with, like, is that your new Windrake? The Rathalos, like, is it kind of like your new Wingdrake? You just lasso that and it takes you from zone to zone.
Oh my goodness. I did watch a demo of that though, actually. It was hilarious. I was watching it, I think it was one of the early demos where a hunter mounted the Rathalos, and the Rathalos just flew off and disappeared. It went to another zone. And the hunters were like, what? Then they had to give chase and chase after the Rathalos because their friend was dangling on by this.
Oh, what?
Yeah, that happened. It was in a video. I watched the Rathalos. It wasn't in the air. It got mounted. And it just flew off into another zone. Well, I'm going to say, quote.
That's like flying first class.
And like, the guys had to jump off, go for like all the vines and stuff just to chase after him. And lastly, actually, the zone, of course, the last zone they've actually announced, which is the Coral Highlands. It's
well, I know you think it's beautiful.
It's stunning. Honestly, it blew my mind. It was so pretty. But it also tricked me as well. Like when it first showed off in the trailer, I was like, "Oh, it's underwater," but no, it looks like it has all these coral bits all over the place.
I think you're going back to 3U and try real quick there.
It has the.
I thought you got rid of this stuff, guys.
God, married man, water combat. Oh my God, community in an uproar. But no, it has the illusion that you're underwater. If you look up, and when I watch the trailer, it looks like kind of like if you're underwater, you're looking up, the sun's coming through. It has that sort of like ripple effect. I know I'm not crazy. Like I saw that.
It looks like maybe at one point it was underwater because it looks like there's like some beach broken boats and stuff that maybe like had crashed at the bottom of the ocean at one point, and now that it's all drained away.
It's a really it's kind of alien, the area is, but like it's like
it really is.
It's very inviting to go into and just explore around the place. And
then there's also like strong wind currents blowing all over the place through it, so it's kind of like actually being underwater with the water currents. So you could use them to take you places.
Oh yeah, well it showed
the mantles. And stuff.
I was literally about to say it showed off the footage of the mantle, literally just flying straight in the air. And we were talking about the monsters as well. Like they have the three God, what's that raptor called? He kind of looks like kind of the rip-off Gypserios again.
It's like Tz Yaku.
I watched the footage before doing this with Virtue, and because I didn't actually see that, I forgot this footage existed. And it was amazing because he instead of doing the whole 360 like Gypserios BS sort of thing where you get stunned,
that area effect where just everything in the area is blind.
Yeah, that whole area just goes white. But no, in this one, like he kind of like projects it in a direction like a cone in front of him. I love that. It's like, but he shows like he's like, oh, I'm gonna flash. Here's your chance.
Yeah, it's
to get
got
out.
like a tell where he's like checking to see if there's batteries in it.
Yeah, it's kind of like
smile.
Yeah, boof. And yeah, it has the same sort of like stun mechanic as well, so you can't just kind of sit in there going dazed and stuff.
Paparazzi Yaku.
Paparazzi Yaku, Jesus Christ, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's got that kind of almost like MMO quality to it, where you have like your line of attack and your area of effect, and then now we have like the directional cone attack. So it's like,
well,
they're teaching you mechanics.
Have they confirmed that if you look away that it won't stun you or what?
I would think that there would be like a look away with it. I mean, it seems like a lot of this game is logic sense, you know, like very common sense is what I meant to say. You see something on the ground, you interact with it. You know, you run by, you put it in your hand, you eat it. You know, you can climb up it. You can use your slinger to get up on there. Like, I would think that if you could block it with a sword, then why couldn't you also just look away? Yeah,
it'd be interesting. It'd be cool, like, if you know, it's one of them things like for someone to scream for science and try it out, you know, that sort of thing. So
we're gonna be blind and getting eaten alive.
Exactly. And now the fan favorite, that fluff bat. What's it called? I can't even say his name again. It's
Alalamu?
Yeah, he's adorable, and I can see why he's a fan favorite. He's just this fluffy bat.
Well, it looks like a bat, and then when it's like not puffed up, it kind of looks like a lemur or something. Like, just it looks strange.
Yeah, his attack pattern seems very Kutku as well. Like, he has the charge animation, and then he trips up at the end of the animation.
He's also airborne a lot too, so he's kind of got like those loose mechanics where it's like, come on, come down already, let's do this.
But like when he puffs up though, it seems like it gets really tricky because he's really quick. Because like 1 minute he puffed up and then he was behind you, and I was like, whoa. But I heard in a podcast, actually, The Carve, you should really listen to them, they're amazing if you've not heard of The Carve. Giant neck, you can actually pop. I believe they said that, or maybe it was a hint, or maybe it
just like deflates out and it's all sad.
Kind of like, you remember those Zamtrios, how when he gets like a fat belly? Kind of like that. Oh my god, imagine if you did that right.
Saggy neck skin.
Imagine if you actually popped him, he disappeared, like shot off like a balloon. Like, I mean, you know, like you just like fill up a balloon, just let go of
and
it.
then like if you slingered him, you just go with him for the
ride. Yeah, but I think Nagante just literally appears in the area and goes, I'm here now! This is mine!
You know, that raises a good question, like, what if these super monsters just show up in other zones? Like, are they the new alpha? Like, do they just wreck Los and Legiana in the Coral Highlands, the new moth draconic wyvern looking thing?
Oh yeah, we need to talk about him, yeah. Yeah, Legante.
It's big.
He's huge. He's really pretty as well. Like, and he is the alpha male of, like, the poor bat. You saw a scene when this bat kind of squares up to him, and it's like, nah.
Well, it's funny. You're in the footage. The guy's fighting Palalamu, and you know Palalamu looks big enough, decent size, like bigger than you, obviously, as any monster should be.
Like a big Kutku, basically, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it goes in the air, and then like Legiana just dwarfs it. Like it almost looks like it's a wing drake, just trying to get out of the way.
No, he's such a cool monster. They did a really good, really amazing job on the design. The fact is, like you said yourself, it looks kind of like wyvern insect sort of looking with the wings.
Yeah, it definitely has that weird moth, but like clean presence to it. Like it's a really slick looking monster.
He belongs in the Coral Highlands because, like, I know he is in the Coral Highlands, but the fact is they've shaped him around to be in the Coral Highlands with how
it seems like they did that with a lot of the monster design, where like the monsters just look like they fit there. They just belong in that environment. So
yeah,
I mean, monsters usually show up in other quests and other zones, but maybe with this game we might see less of it, or maybe we'll see more of it. I don't know.
And the last thing I think we actually want to talk about is actually the future zones in our head, what we're actually thinking about. Like,
yeah, you always have like a forest, a desert, like a castle keep or a defend area, which looks like that's gonna be the new Elder. Like they got that fortified ballista dragonator boat or something going on in the canyon.
Definitely. Then of course my two favorites, you're gonna have the frozen area or the ice area or snow area, and then the volcano. Them sort of zones have always been in Monster Hunter. They always have been. So it's
well, that's where you get your ore.
Yep, that's
can't get your ore without a volcano.
That's volcano was the place I always get all giddy and very happy about, because that's when I start like grinding to get rust stones and ancient shards and stuff, so I can get like the ancient weapons and stuff. And that's when you have like the big boys like Gravios and Basirios. You mentioned a really cool actually little formula. Actually, it was like you said 2 returning and 3 new or something like. What was your theory on that?
It was like rule of 2. So like we've seen the ancient forest, and it looks like they've given us what is it, Los and Ian.
Yeah, Rathalos, Raytheon, and then you've got like Anjanath, Great Jagras, the Wastelands, Baroth,
and the Diablos and the Wildspire.
And then you have like the Mudfish, and there might be some other ones in there as well, maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Like you can go in there. And lastly, we have ourselves the Coral Highlands, and they're all 3 monsters, or just brand new. There's no returning monsters in there at all.
I'd like to see returning monsters there. I don't know what they would put in there, though. What do you think would be like a kissing? That's horrible.
What's up, guys? I don't know what would actually fit in there, in that area. But,
I haven't really thought about that one, have we?
No. But in the ice area, I'm guessing, I'm most likely because the fan favorite Barioth's going to be in it, most likely. That's my thought on it. Most likely I'm going to be completely wrong.
Yeah, I think like Barioth and like maybe like a Tigrex, like because that was originally a tundra monster to begin with.
Yes, he is in Freedom 2, and yep, he was terrifying.
Want more pseudo wyverns, which I think we left out a couple from the other zones.
Which ones are they? Pseudo wyverns. Which ones?
The Toby Kodachi. Then it's like it looks like Dalamander. It's a lizard with the tones.
Forgot about it.
It's really fast. I mean, that basically looks like kind of like a pseudo wyvern. Like the wings are sort of attached to the arms, and it's just fast moving.
Dog.
He looks super shifty.
Snakes, dog thing. I don't know, with paralysis bites, cake on that. It's really confusing.
Serpent-like qualities.
With 4 legs and barks, but hisses at the same time.
Good job.
Creepy ass monster. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this episode, do give it a like. And of course, if you want to hear more from Virtue, he does stream regularly, so I'll put his link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Take care of yourself, guys, and have an awesome day. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.